A lot of organizations have, over the last, let's call it 5 to 7 years, said, we need to put everything into the cloud. We need to work our workflows into the cloud. That's become problematic. Once you put your data in the cloud, it becomes very difficult for two reasons. Either one, you get a performance hit on that. It's difficult to continue to have highly performant workflows running in the cloud. And number two, when you want to move your data outside of that environment, it becomes very expensive. OpenDrives historically is and was a company that grew out of M&E, providing highly performant NAS storage for the M&E industry. And by highly performant, we mean dealing with very difficult video media, 4K, 6K, 8K, and really providing both the hardware and the software to enable creatives to complete their projects.
I can understand that as a starting point, but now we've got SSDs, which are performant beyond words to describe. How have you evolved?
Well, I'm going to take you through a two-step process. The first was that, and I think if you walk all of these hallways, everybody's going to say in the last 5 to 7 years, hardware has become commoditized.
A true statement.
So, and while we were designing hardware, the real value that we were adding as an enterprise storage provider was with our software, the file system that operated all of this very complicated hardware.
You have to have a different file system? We can't use like a Windows file system or Mac file system on your gear?
Now, when you're talking about the creatives who are using Premiere Pro, they can be doing that on their workstations. But to operate all of the disks or all of the flash drives, you will have an operating system that is orchestrating all of that. That was the real value add that we were providing on top of the hardware we were designing. But we made this transition over the last 3 years from a hardware designer with software that we created to a purely software-defined storage offer. So we're a software company now.
Which means that now you can run on any hardware.
Like many software companies, we go through a rigorous certification process. So rather than just saying bring any hardware to us, we certify and work with third-party vendors, and we will then point our customers to those third-party hardware offers and say, we've certified our software on this. It will work fantastically.
Why should I even bother with OpenDrives? I mean, I've got a Mac system. I will confess I'm Mac-centric. I've got a Mac system. I've got an SSD. I'm able to edit on Premiere or Resolve or Final Cut or Avid. Give me a reason to look at OpenDrives.
Yeah, so one of two reasons. Either your workflow requires very highly performant resources.
For example?
Maybe you're working with 8K video and you have an entire team and they're all collaborating on the same project at the same time. That's going to create problems unless you have a storage system and, of course, the software that's operating it to orchestrate that. Something as simple as just scrubbing through a file, you'll have delays. You'll have issues in completing your project. So that's the reason that you would come to an OpenDrives.
But you're missing a word that I didn't hear before. You're providing not just performant, in other words, high-speed storage, but it's shared high-speed storage. And that is a key difference between a SSD that's attached to somebody's local system.
That is exactly it. And that's really, when you look at NAS, that's really the value of NAS, is that now you can have the shared storage for a work group, a larger group, for collaborative processing of media.
One of the challenges as you're making this transition out of hardware into software, the media industry is going through a retrenchment, I think is a polite way to say it.
Right.
Where are you seeing signs of growth? What markets are adopting you?
We work all across the spectrum. We work with broadcast, we work with post, and we work with even smaller shops. And we have found that most of the media organizations across those are still requiring refreshes on their hardware, and obviously with the hardware comes the software. I would say that some of the strikes were a bit, they were causing obstructions, but I think we're starting to see that loosen up. I personally, for 2025, feel that we're going to see things really righting themselves, and we're seeing that with the conversations that we're having. When you look at any of these organizations, they have the hardware and the software, and it's got a life cycle of 5 to 7 years. And when they get to the end of it, there's a refresh there, and we're there for our customers in the long term. So we're still having those dialogues, looking at their environments as they grow, as their needs get very diverse. We're helping them.
There's a lot of different trends going on in our industry. Everybody wants everything to be faster. They all want it to have AI, whatever that means. What trends are you watching that you think are significant to your part of the industry?
So several things there. Yes, AI is very much on our radar, and there are two aspects to AI. There's the AI that the production companies are using within their workflows. This, for us, is something that simply generates more and more complex media going through the workflow. That's perfectly fine, and we want to support that. But the other side of it is, where on our side, on the software side, can we apply AI technology to make things more seamless? Now, the other trend that works with that is that a lot of organizations have, over the last, let's call it 5 to 7 years, said, we need to put everything into the cloud. We need to work our workflows into the cloud. That's become problematic. Once you put your data in the cloud, it becomes very difficult for two reasons. Either one, you get a performance hit on that. It's difficult to continue to have highly performant workflows running in the cloud. And number two, when you want to move your data outside of that environment, it becomes very expensive. So it's not necessarily the cost-efficient solution that people thought. So I'm going to give you a term that we use now. We see a lot of organizations talking about data repatriation. Okay, my data is in the cloud. We're running our workflows there. We need to claw some of this back into on-premises environments so that we can work on it effectively. So now you're trying to support what we'll call a hybrid cloud environment, a hybrid cloud workflow, and that becomes very complex because now you're talking of different tiers of storage, and you need software to make that seamless. You don't want your creatives stopping and going, what's going on with my storage? I just want my data. And that's what we provide, is that seamlessness, whether your data is in the cloud, whether it's on-premise, or in this case, in some sort of hybrid state.
Trevor, before I let you go, do you have anything new that you want to talk about?
I do. We released a press release 2 weeks ago talking about our new product, Astraeus. Our previous product, which still exists, was Atlas. We were talking about that. Astraeus is something completely different. Astraeus is a platform that really resides above the storage layer. And as we were talking about complicated environments like data repatriation, where you may have some of your data in the cloud, some of your data on premises, and maybe in different storage vendor environments, Astraeus is going to orchestrate all of that and do this with a microservices, Kubernetes-based platform. So we are moving beyond pure storage into that infrastructure layer that ties it all together.
For those people who are considering OpenDrives or any kind of performance storage, why should they consider you?
You touched upon it. It's really the capability for, we support the very large environments. Our technology is very highly performant for those large environments. But for your small shop that has big dreams, we have a lot of growth potential. But I'm going to tell you about one thing that we did last year, and we've continued that. Most storage organizations will charge you as you add more capacity. You want to add another petabyte? To use this software, we're going to charge you more. We went to basically an all-you-can-eat. Once you've purchased the software for a duration, for a term, we don't care how much capacity you throw at that. So you want to grow to another 2 petabytes, you're going to have no upcharge. And that really took a lot of people by surprise. So when you look at those smaller environments with big dreams, they're going to grow in 3 to 5 years, you can grow through us, and as you grow, we're not going to hit you with extra fees.
Trevor, thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you.